Good morning, Achoja Warriors. Always a great time to be with you. I'm thankful for your time. I love Financial Freedom Fridays. It is my favorite series that I enjoy on this channel because I know that it is the one that provides the most upside. The one that, right, when I'm saying better self, better wealth, it is the requirement that you will find what it takes for someone to be a millionaire, to achieve their financial goals, whatever they may be. If your financial goals is just simply to get out of debt so that you're able to homeschool kids, or if your financial goals are to start that company, so you got to raise some funding. If your financial goal is just to pay back your friend that you borrowed the $10 from 2 years ago and you've been just ducking them because it's been bothering you. Whatever it is, this is what I enjoy doing the most, giving you some of this information that's going to allow you to help you to be able to overcome those hurdles, because things are very difficult today, and it's why the approach that we take has to be different. I know the people that you're listening to, I love them. They've been doing it for 20, 30 years. But if you think that the same strategies that worked in the 1980s are going to work in 2020, believe me when I tell you that that is not the case. Things have drastically changed, right? I'm not a tax professional, but when you go from 15 brackets in the 80s to 7 brackets, when you go from the highest is 70% of your income being taxed to the highest is 37% of your income will be taxed, that you have to make changes in those strategies. And we haven't even really talked about the automation and the globalization and things that have systematically changed the way that we have to accumulate wealth. And so I always start on the better self, because I know that the journey to achieve that financial goal, it's built a lot more internally. It's what we have to do to be able to generate the income that we're looking to get. And what I mean by that is very simply, there is a reason that people who get $1 million, that the majority of them within 3 years are back exactly where they started from. And that's because the mindset that they have is that $30,000, $40,000 that they have been able to generate, or whatever the amount is, that whatever they have been able to generate, that if you give them a ton of money, that it won't change anything. And that the money will flow always back into the hands that understand what to do with the money. And so for you to achieve your financial goals, we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to blend the two, right? The idea is that tell me who those 5 people that you are around most often. Tell me some of the characteristics that they have. Tell me some of the things that they believe, and I will be able to tell you something about yourself. And that goes the same as if you're telling me what shows that you watch, what channels you enjoy. I can tell you something about yourself. And it sounds like hyperbole, it sounds crazy, but as I mentioned in a previous episode, the ads that you see on these different channels are so specific that they understand exactly what someone believes to watch this channel. So I'm asking you, write down the 5 people that you spend the most time with, write down some of the characteristics that they have. I want you then next to that to write down what your goal is for yourself in 2020, whatever that number is, write down your financial goal, and then I want you to then look at your list and see, will they help me achieve that goal or will they hinder me? And what I'm saying is do their beliefs help me to reach the goals? Will they find my ideas and say, you know what, that is an audacious goal that you have set. Let's see if we can put some pieces in place to make it more achievable, versus someone who says, I haven't seen that done ever, you might as well hang it up. Because it is a big deal that you have to build a certain mindset, because again, this journey to achieve the financial freedom and your goal, the way that things are stacked against you now, it is not something that is just going to happen easily. If it was, there wouldn't be 78% of America living paycheck to paycheck. There wouldn't be 64% of people are projected to retire broke today. Broke today. And that I believe is like 60 something percent, I don't know that exact number, of people that they don't have $1,000 accessible to them. And what I'm saying is it is the well over the majority of people are broke, living paycheck to paycheck with the plan of just working till they die. Or what I've seen more often is they work until they're unable to, right? They have some sort of a health issue that makes it almost impossible for them to be able to go to work the same way that they used to. Where they have surgeries where they're out and then they're trying to figure things out because the bills keep coming. And so I understand, right? As you guys already know, my passion in my drive is when I read the stat that said black wealth will be zero in the year 2053. I said, what can I do to help alleviate that? And what can we do together? And when I say we, I mean anyone who thinks that that is not okay, all on board. And that has little to do with the color of your skin, because there's going to be people, and I've talked to them where they have told me, hey, Dre, I'm going to spend all my money because my parents didn't give me nothing and I'm not giving my kids nothing. That is the issue that I'm fighting against. That belief, that mindset, that's what I'm struggling with. That if you are someone who believes that, then we got problems. And that is neither here nor there, and all these other things. Like, to me, that just doesn't make sense, because not only the fact that we've talked about some of the changing economics. Hello, have you seen how expensive college is now? I think college has gone up about like 7% a year. Like, could you imagine if you got a 7% raise every year? Like, that is a significant amount of money, right? We're talking about 2.5 times over what you see as inflation. Every single year it's going up. And so now people are graduating with a mortgage of student loan debt, which then makes it difficult for them to buy a home because they don't budget in their debt to income ratio. It makes it difficult for them to be able to put money away for their retirement, for their wealth building. So if you are able to do anything to help on that journey for your kids, whether it's a small amount or a large amount, whether it's just convincing them to stay in the state and go to a small school, or whether it's even telling them that they should start with learning a trade and work and save the money so they can then go, whatever it is, there has to be a change in the way that we look and engage with college. And so I believe that if you are in a position where you could just knock that off on someone's list of burden and difficulties, that's a legacy within itself. I mean, that is a fantastic legacy within itself. And so it becomes just this mindset thing. So again, we'll go back. You have the list of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and then you also have on the side what it is, that number that you want, and then you're adjusting and making this list, and you're looking at it. Do these people make this much? Are they interested in this much? Are they going to help me, or are they hurting me do that? And then you're going to compare this list, and then I want you to then maybe start writing down underneath that, hey, what are some things the people that would want my number do? Where would they hang out? What would they believe? And how can I engage with that? And so you may have noticed, right, I'm not wearing a suit, I'm wearing my tuxedo today. And I have invested in a tuxedo. I do have one. I do go to galas and different events on occasion. And for me, I have found that if you go to a black tie event, you find some very interesting people. You find very successful people. You find very caring people. Like, everybody, most of the time when you go to these events, they are people who are looking to help someone, right? Like, they are very interested in improving their community. And so then you're engaging with them and you're finding out, how can I help you? And then they're like, well, what can I do to help you? And now you're creating something beautiful together. Imagine if you were able to go to a black tie event, if you were able to create your 5 people from there. Would that positively impact the results of your finances? If you were able to connect with 5 very successful people who were in a black gala, and you were a black tie event, and you were able to engage, learn, and collaborate on different projects, would that help you? And I would say dramatically. I know it has for me. The people that I have met, the things that I have learned, it has shaved years off of the ups and the downs and the hills and the valleys. And people are very excited to share their knowledge. And the reason is very simple, right? Most of the time, most of the people that in their life are interested in just getting the money. They just want a handout. If you are in someone and you meet them and you're like, I just want to learn some of the craft. I want you to help guide some of my steps. That is a breath of fresh air. In their mind, they're like, oh, I'm going to teach this person how to fish. They're not even interested in the fish. And then again, you find that most people who are gathering knowledge and who are successful, they recognize that hunger and that drive in you, and it reminds them of themselves when they're in your position. And I find that the people are very well receiving of that. So the question becomes, how do I get in around the 5 people that I need to be around to achieve the financial freedom that I'm looking for? And sometimes you got to go all the way up where you have a black tie or you have a tuxedo and you go to these events. They're always available. And you may say, Dre, I don't think I can afford to go to these things. I mean, how much is the entry, and what could we do? Like, let's say, right, we're sitting here in at the end of January right now. What if you found one in April? Could you save the amount of money each week that allows you to go to that gala? Well, Dre, I don't have a tuxedo. Well, let's start by renting one. And again, we budget that. We put the money aside where we can do that. And then on the same time, you're putting the money also aside for you to be able to buy your tuxedo, right? Like you have to be able to say, if you want to achieve your financial goals, it can't end with, well, that's not possible for me. Oh, I can't afford that, because then your mind shuts down. It's like, okay, well, we can't do it. Shut down factory. Everybody go home. Or you can say, how can I do that? What can I change so I can accomplish that? Then your factory is working in overdrive. Okay, now I have something that I'm trying to strive towards. This is very important. How do I get into these events? How do I build the finances necessary to be able to afford the entry or anything of that nature? Because I can almost guarantee you that if you go in these things, you build some relationships, if you're able to surround yourself with these 5 successful people, that you will see the fruits of your labor. They're going to introduce you to people. They're going to help you on your journey, right? Because we're so much always in the lab where we're trying to figure things out. We want to make sure everything's perfect when we come out, and sometimes you just got to take the first step. If you could just take the first step, then you would very easily recognize how difficult and maybe how easy certain things are, or maybe how you overestimated this, underestimated this, or the goal that you have set is actually not going to get you the result that you want. Wouldn't you want to find that out earlier in the journey? Right? I would. And again, when we talk about being surrounded by the right 5 people, I also want you to just think of it like this, right? Like if I go to a restaurant or something like that, I often, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, what do the people look like who go here? And am I okay looking like that? Right? Because you will find that the people look a certain way if you go to different places, whether you're talking about a fast food restaurant or a buffet or a very nice, elegant restaurant. Like you will find that people look a certain way. They have a certain understanding. And so you have to sit there and say, okay, do I want to look like that? Our scripture says, don't be fooled. Bad company corrupts good. And so what I'm saying is if you are around a certain environment enough that environment is going to influence you, or you're going to be fighting so often to maintain your mindset that it becomes a miserable experience for everyone involved. And I've done both. I've done both. There are times in my life where I'm like, man, Dre, like that is not you. Like you actually are really good at this. And then there's times in my life where I am just like going to bat, I'm gung-ho, and everybody's like, well, dang, Dre, will you just turn it down a notch? Surely it can't be that bad all the time. And you start losing yourself in it either way. So you don't want to be fooled in that sense. Well, I'm going to be around this 5 people, and I'm not going to share any of their results. Like I'm always going to end up okay. I mean, it sounds great, but you find that that's just not generally what happens. That you just by simply surrounding yourself by more successful people, it requires you to raise your game a notch. It just is a requirement to be there. Right? Like, I mean, I'm not very good at basketball, but if you throw me on an NBA court, I'm going to have to do something a little bit better than I've been doing before. Versus if you put me on the court at one of my daughter's elementary schools, well, then I don't have to do much, right? I'm just going to dominate, right? Like the bar is so low that I'm going to look amazing. But the question is, what is it that is that chasing happiness that you're doing in your life? And would you be satisfied playing basketball against elementary kids, or do you need to raise your level so that you can compete on the NBA level? And I understand some of the things you're thinking, well, Dre, there's nothing I could do. I'm like 5'4". I totally get it. All that jazz. Right? I'm too old, all that stuff. I get a lot of those misunderstandings, but could you compete at that level? Could we at least strive to be at that level? Could you surround yourself in that environment where you are no longer making excuses because these people are succeeding on all accounts, or I mean, at least many of the areas that you want to, where now you're saying, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it. And if they're doing it, then I have to look at myself and say, you know what? The problem isn't the industry. The problem isn't the product. The problem is me. And what do I need to do to overcome that? And so I encourage you to use that in all aspects. Even if you're in your own company, you don't need to go to a black tie gala or anything like that. If it's just simply going to lunch with people in the C-suite, where maybe your boss's boss or just your boss in general, stop always spending all of your time with people below you because it helps you to feel comfortable. Spend some more time with the people above you where you feel like the emperor without clothes, where you're very uncomfortable because you feel you don't know anything. Because you'll find two things. One is everybody brings value. Yeah, I don't care who you are. Everybody brings value. So don't focus on judging yourself, right? Like, for example, one of the things I'm working on this year is I'm working on being on time more. That is something that I was great at one point in my life, and then it slipped as I've gotten older with kids, right? I've been able to say, well, my kids are so important, so I got to be able to check off all these boxes, but that just becomes an excuse and a crutch, and I have to be able to rise to the level again. Now, it doesn't matter who says that to me. It doesn't matter who challenges me. As long as that person in that particular aspect of their life, they are on time, then they have the right to be able to say something. Now, granted, you could always push back. And sometimes I think that, well, okay, that's cool. You want to, right, you're a fish, I'm a monkey, right? The idea is, okay, you want to talk about how fast someone can swim. Okay, I want to talk about how high we can climb in a tree because I'll dominate you on that one. But that doesn't really benefit me, right? Like that doesn't really help me. It's not even a question of, okay, because that's your strength and it's my weakness, but my strength is your weakness. Like that's not what we're trying to do. I often find that no matter who that person is, or the fact that they have the courage to tell you something, that person has value in your life. The fact that they just were able to tell you something that maybe you needed to hear, a reflection that you needed to have, that's more than enough reason to keep that person in your life, because you don't want to be surrounded by yes people. You don't want to be surrounded by people who don't expect more of you, where they always are saying, well, you tried your best. No. You want to be surrounded by people who are going to expect so much of you that they are disappointed in you when you fall short. That's when you know that you're surrounding something amazing, that you're building the right and proper mastermind. And so I do encourage you guys to make sure that you're trying to go up and understand that you have to bring value to them, right? We're not just coming to only absorb. We want to give value as well in whatever aspect that you can. And then you also want to understand that if someone is giving you information that you know to be true, that will help you positively, even if that person's weakness is a strength of yours, it is not a reason for you to throw a rock back at them. Now, you may want to, I do encourage you to tell them at some point, because that's what the relationship is, right? So whether you tell them in a few days or a week, you just don't want it to be linked to the idea, well, I told this person that something that they were messing up on, and then they just threw something back in my face. Well, I'm never going to tell them again, right? That doesn't help you. That hurts you. You want to be surrounded by honest people. I used to joke and I would say, yeah, man, I mean, the cool thing about people walking around with the white mask on and made the life easier is because then you know what's going on. Okay, cool. I appreciate that. I know how you feel about me. It makes both of our lives easier. It's difficult in today's world where everybody is so politically correct that we have no idea how a lot of people feel. Now, the cool thing is Facebook has helped that a lot. There's been a lot of people that I've seen on social media. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not know that you thought that way. So social media is helping with that. People, I saw a meme and it used to say it said I used to want to know, I used to want to read people's minds, and then they created Facebook and I realized I didn't want to know anymore what people were thinking. Yeah, that's pretty much kind of where I'm at on that. Where I'm like, oh wow, I did not know that, but thank you. I appreciate knowing that. Cool. And sometimes I use the 5 people you're surrounded with in that way, where I'm like, okay, let me see who the 5 people they're surrounded with. Because it's harder to get someone to tell you about themselves because we're just kind of guarded that way. But if you're talking about someone else, it becomes easier, right? Oh, well, hey, I saw that you know, da 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 da. Could you, share some things, like what do y'all have in common or something like that? It's like, oh yeah, we do this, this, this. Okay, cool, right? And then you can start building that understanding. And so I just cannot stress the importance. If your goal is to achieve financial freedom, then you have to be able to surround yourself by people who are where you want to be. And then you have to rise to that level. As we say, the Achoja is a daily discipline of chasing happiness and rising to the challenge. And so we always think for our time that will be a mindset moment. Truly grateful. I'm excited for what we have going on in February. You guys are going to see we're going to focus on restoring Black wealth, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak on some of the strength that you'll find and some of the journey that they went along of different millionaires and billionaires within the Black community, whether they're business owners, whether they're professional athletes or musicians, whatever it was. We're going to have this discussion. It's going to be a lot of fun as we focus on Black History Month, and I do hope that you guys enjoy them, that you share them, that you comment on them, as we work and strive towards chasing happiness by catching greatness. Until next time, I'm Dre, and continue blessings on your journey to become the champion of your dream life. And as always, better self, better wealth.